Minister Shri Siddaramaiah ji, my colleague Shri Venkaiah Naidu, Shri Anand Kumar, Shri R.V. Deshpande, the Industry Minister of the Government of Karnataka, other very senior ministers of the government, captains of the industry, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a privilege as always to be in this lovely city of Bangalore. And I'd like to congratulate the Honorable Chief Minister and the Government of Karnataka for having continued this tradition of identifying his state with the need of investment, economic expansion, keeping the theme on manufacturing and made in India and made in Karnataka. Karnataka unquestionably is one of the most progressive states in India. I've had, sir, the privilege for last several years for having attended these economic summits in the state of Karnataka. The first one I attended as Commerce Minister when Mr. Krishna was the Chief Minister. I've attended summits organized by subsequent governments. And I think it's a credit to you and your government that you've kept this tradition going. And over the last decade and a half that I've been attending these conferences, we've seen a sure but a steady growth in the economic activity of the state. Karnataka has led in many ways. It was the first state which became an educational hub in India. There was a time where people thought that education and providing education was, particularly higher education, was only the prerogative of the state. The states had limitation in terms of resources, and inviting many non-governmental organizations, giving full facility and a working environment to them, Karnataka led by example and became the first state which for many educational institutions became a hub as far as India was concerned, and that model has over the last 2 decades worked very successfully across India. And it is that model which has succeeded in producing some of the best minds in the country. From tourism to healthcare, several service sector industries prospered. But I think the state found its identity because of the human resource that it generated, because of the environment of innovation that it generated. It found its identity in IT. And it was that one industry which actually brought it to a global center stage. And since then, the state has never looked back. And today, we all do realize that the state has done exceedingly well as far as service sector is concerned. And it's manufacturing where the future also lies. It's manufacturing where jobs are created. It's manufacturing where mass employment will take place. And therefore, I think it is in the fitness of things that the Honorable Prime Minister had given over 2.5 years ago a vision of Make in India, that Karnataka has tried to pursue that vision with a great emphasis itself. Mr. Deshpande just now gave us details of the initiatives that the state is taking. So whether it is in the field of textiles or it's in the field of machine tools, or in pharmaceutical, biotechnology, aerospace, and now we have opened up the defense sector for investment itself. And therefore, huge opportunities lie where a human resource is available in that particular sector. And I think it's to the credit of the state that it is making a conscious effort of expanding the base as far as manufacturing is concerned in that one area. What strikes us today, sir, is two important factors. And if we look at the overall environment at this conference or such similar conferences which are held across in different states, two important factors strike at us. And that is contradistinct from what's happening elsewhere in the world. The first, that not a single sound or even a whisper of protectionism is now being heard in India. It's only being heard in developed economies outside the country. And that itself is a tribute to the fact that India is willing to accept investment from wherever the investment wants to come in and is tuning its policies in support of that investment. The second, notwithstanding the fact that there is still a continued slowdown in the world, and a slowdown of a nature that many of the best minds in the world are not able to even predict or assess how long it will last, and are attuning itself to newer forms and methodologies of dealing with it, including unconventional policies. In state after state in India, the environment is one of a positive attitude towards investment and a determination that we are wanting to go ahead and grow. There are several features which are visible across the country, both amongst policymakers and amongst the people. I referred to one of them, that you don't hear whispers of protectionism, which we used to hear a few decades ago. The second is that India has become an increasingly aspirational society. And therefore, there is a huge amount of impatience amongst the people that we want to grow faster, we want to get rid of poverty, we want to improve the lot and standard as far as the Indian people are concerned. And this impatience, coupled with the great aspiration to move forward, is itself a pressure on policymakers to reform and grow faster. The environment in support of reforms has never been as supportive in the past as it is today. And therefore, it is our responsibility, both in the center and the state governments, to really put ourselves together and look at the roadmap that we have of continuing this path of growth. And the best example of this is that even at a 7% plus, 7.5% plus growth rate, India is not a satisfied nation. It has a hunger to grow still at a faster rate. We are not satisfied with the tag of just being the fastest economy in the world. We think we have a potential to do better. And I think it is this impetus which the people are creating on us, which should really compel us to take a clue and move forward as far as this area of progress is concerned. Just one or two small facts. It's been repeatedly mentioned that India has an environment of cooperative federalism. The leaders of the CII mentioned it in their opening comments. That indeed is the least that we can do, because the center and the states really have to cooperate. And in this regard, let me place on record my deep sense of gratitude and appreciation, Mr. Chief Minister, at the contribution your ministers and your civil servants have been making in actually making the GST a reality. Karnataka has been one of the most active participants in the GST Council meeting, And it has worked with a very positive frame of mind to make sure that it becomes a reality by the middle of the year itself. And that itself will bring a transformational change. I look at the next 1 or 2 years, as far as India is concerned, as transformational in the reason that once the GST is implemented, the whole country will become one big market with an easy flow of goods and services, no taxation on taxation, people getting input credits, easier assessment systems, one assessment instead of the multiple assessments which have to take place today, a better coordination of that fiscal policy between the center and the state, greater ease in terms of doing business, a more efficient system, larger collections, and a very little possibility of being able to evade taxes. So one hand, you have a more efficient system where evasion becomes difficult. Generation of a shadow economy through the taxation system becomes more difficult. On the other hand, you have a series of steps which the governments have taken in order to integrate the informal economy with the formal economy. And hopefully, this could lead to a situation over the next few years where you may have a much bigger formal economy, a much bigger revenue size as far as the states are concerned, as far as the center is concerned. What do we do with this? We have to prepare ourselves for this contingency, and our approach has been to choose the areas of investment. And the areas of investment which we have chosen are, firstly, we have to invest in agriculture and in the rural areas, because that's where the inequalities are. That is where a larger purchasing power has a potential of being created, and a larger growth power does exist there for the future. We have chosen infrastructure as one of the greater investments. For instance, this year in the union budget, we have provided for 3,96,000 crore investment in infrastructure alone. And this itself, spread across the length and width of the country, will also help in creating a base for a better economic activity. We invest in the social sectors. And then an additional enrichment as far as the states are concerned, further investing in the kind of welfareism that the states have been undertaking, which supplements the central investments. And hopefully, this together can create not only a base as far as the future growth is concerned, but also a better infrastructure being provided today as far as industry is concerned for its own investment. We are conscious of the fact that there are challenges also. There are challenges of a slowed down world, a reduced demand, the need to have the private sector pick up in its investment activities, but then that gets increasing expenditure, increasing public expenditure is an activity which is going to eventually facilitate that. Karnataka, as I said, is indeed one of the most progressive states, and we have to target a situation where Karnataka grows at least 2 to 3% ahead of the national growth rate. Once that happens, once Karnataka grows at a pace which is higher than the national growth rate, I think it's only then that the Karnataka's ability in terms of economically being able to lead India is going to become a reality. You have been one of the most innovative states, you have a very progressive population, you have a progressive set of policies, and I do hope that this tradition of these conferences, which also have a great eco-impact on the investment environment of the country. It changes the way policy makers think, it changes their language, their idiom, their ability to provide a facilitatory environment. And I'm sure, having continued this tradition, we'll be seeing a much greater investment in Karnataka, which will produce yield results for all the investors who've come from all over the world for this conference. I wish you, sir, the very best for the coming year itself. Thank you.
Very reassuring indeed to hear that from you. Thank you so much, Mr. Arun Jaitly, for your address.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we now invite the Honorable Chief Minister of Karnataka, Shri Siddaramaiah, for his address. ಬಂಧುಗಳೇ, ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸಿ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಾಜ್ಯದ ಗೌರವಾನ್ವಿತ ಮುಖ್ಯಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳಾದ ಶ್ರೀ ಸಿದ್ದರಾಮಯ್ಯ.